What, Papa? Shalom Aleichem from Central Park. Shalom Aleichem, Chaim Baruch Halevsky here. Chabad of the West Side, Chabad Family Programs. Rockin' Tishrei. It's really amazing. Thousands of people joined us, celebrating, connecting, internalizing, absorbing. And now it's time to unpack. This is what the Rebbe said the month of Tishrei is all about. It's about everything we need for another year. God, this is, the Rebbe said that, interestingly, the high holidays contain within them the spirits and the energy that we need to take forth for the rest of the year, starting with Rosh Hashanah, whose theme is to crown God as our King, to accept upon ourselves the Ol Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of heaven. Moving on to Yom Kippur, which we focus on Teshuvah, reconnecting and returning from where we were, and then infusing it with Simcha and Sukkot and Simchas Torah, where we dance and we celebrate with extreme joy, because that's what we need. We need joy. Yivdu es Hashem b'simcha. We need to serve God with joy. In every step of our life, joy helps. So that's the general overview. So we have those three central themes in the month of Tishrei, which help us throughout the rest of the year. So this week is Parshas Lech Lecha. However, I had this thought stuck in my mind, like one I just can't get rid of. And I have to share with you about Parshas Noach from last week. So please don't get confused. This week it talks about Abraham and make this world a better place and go challenge yourself. That's this week. I'm going to share the thought that I learned from the Rebbe right in this beautiful Central Park path, and it wasn't live, it was a recording, and I've been thinking about it ever since because it's so relevant every single day of our lives. And in Parshas Noach we talk about the flood, the great big flood that came down to wash out the earth. And there's different ways of looking at that flood. From the most commonly known way is that, from the Hasidic mystical perspective, is that the flood was like a mikveh. It was a cleansing process that the world needed to go through. And it was 40 days, like the 40 measurements of water that the mikveh needs. And it wiped out all the negativity of the world, ready to start fresh. That's one commonly known take that you probably heard from your rabbi on Parshas Noach last week. I'm going to share another thought, different perspective. Floods, the waters, the raging waters of the flood are actually negative waters, and they're related to a pasuk, Mayim Rabim Lo L'chabot et Ahava. The raging water, currents of water, will not be able to extinguish the love that a Jew has for God, and that God has for the Jews, of course, too. But this way we're talking from down to up right now, from us to God. This is a verse from King Solomon, and the Rebbe says that the Mayim Rabim, these raging waters, these floods, are the distractions and the temptations of the world that are pulling us away, vying for every fiber of our attention and being, to pull us away from being connected to God, from cleaving to God, from being the Atem Hashem Elokechem, Chaim kulchem hayom. As Moshe said, are the ones who cleave to God, your God. You bond with Him, and you are alive today. You're all alive. And the Hasidic understanding of that is that in order for you to be truly alive, you need to cleave to God. You need to connect, bond with God. That's what makes you truly alive. And this Mayim Rabim, this flood, these floods, our society, our world is flooded with distractions now more than ever, trying to take us away from that bonding with God. So says the Rebbe, Mayim Rabim lo yichlu lechabot et ahava. But we've got this love that is so powerful, this love of God overcomes any obstacle. It is eternal, it's internal. And why is it so? Because we are God's children. And we're also the children of Avraham. And Avraham was the one who loved God unconditionally and dedicated his life and sacrificed it for that. He was ready to sacrifice his son too. The Rebbe says that every child inherits Yerusha, inheritance from their parents everything they've got, God forbid when the time is up. And it doesn't matter what the child is like, wise or otherwise. It doesn't matter if they're strong. It doesn't matter if they're wealthy or not. Nothing matters. If they get the complete inheritance, unless they're fighting with siblings, which you shouldn't do anyway. So a child gets the complete inheritance from God Almighty, from Avraham Avinu, also love of God that is strong and stronger than any interferences, than any distinctions that we may come across. That's Mayim Rabim lo yuchlu lechabot et ahava. They will not be able to extinguish the love that we have for God. And Hashem said also, the Rebbe repeated in this sikha, in this talk, that God said to Avram, I trust acharav lishmor derech Hashem. I trust that he will after him to keep on in the ways of God. So that's one talk of the Rebbe. I just thought it's a beautiful thing. The raging waters of the flood are the distractions of the world, and we've got that internal love that keeps us above the waters. There's another point to this, which is a different take, but it's related, that God said to Noach, come into the ark. How do we reveal this love that we have deep down to God? Is by coming into the ark. The word teva in the ark, but it also means words of Torah, words of tefillah. When we come into the ark every day and we empower us, I'm looking for another word, but it's we wrap ourselves with the strength that we need, and we gain the strength to overcome any challenges that we may. Torah and tefillah, and especially in the morning, we start off the day with a prayer. Modani l'fan. God, thanks for waking me up. Or more you put on tefillin, you synchronize your mind, your body, your heart to God and everyone, male and female. We daven, we say Shema, we say the Amidah. We connect to God in a way that gives us the strength to take on the day and make this world a better place. That's the story for today. Enjoy the day. Chaim Olevsky here, Chabad Family Programs.